and welcome back to By Myself But Not Alone. This is episode 29, El Paso, Texas. Well, I've been missing in action for a little while. It's been 6 or 7 months since I posted my last video. I'm really sorry for the break in the action, but for 3 reasons, I just needed to take a break. First of all, this little COVID mess was really starting to get to me, really starting to make me crazy. I know there are many of you out there who completely understand what that feels like. I put on a couple COVID pounds if I look a little thicker. The second reason is the tedious chore of editing these videos. After a year straight of spending every free moment I had doing that, it was really starting to get to me. I really love making these videos, but too much of anything can be a bad thing. And finally, overtime at work. We've just been working crazy hours for a very long time, and when you combine those 3 things, I needed to take a break. So I decided to take a break. I didn't think it was going to last as long as it has, and well, we're back now, and I promise we won't stop again until we hit Grand Rapids. Alrighty, so let's get on with it. The last episode ended with me crawling into the house completely exhausted, seemingly near death. The 4th leg had been a fabulous run of 7 amazing shows in 7 amazing cities in the company of so many awesome people, but I was relieved and happy when it was finally over. I slept for about 15 hours. I woke up and I headed straight to the doctor so I could reload on antibiotics and steroids for my ear problem. I felt a little guilty about using a doctor's note to miss an additional day of work because the company I work for had been so cooperative throughout the entire adventure. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but I couldn't have attempted this project without their cooperation, and I appreciate everything they did for me along the way. In this case, it was absolutely necessary though, because the weather in Ohio literally tried to kill me. I got my medicine, made it to work the next day, and in a few days I really started feeling better again. We had about 3.5 weeks off, and then we'd be heading down that road again for the final leg of our black ticket run that would start in El Paso, Texas, and end in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I had learned from the 3 previous breaks that 3 weeks would be over before I knew it, but there was really only one thing I needed to accomplish other than getting rested up, and that was to buy a suit. You may be asking yourself why the hell I would need to buy a suit. Well, I haven't mentioned this until now, although it was hidden in the recesses of my mind throughout most of the 4th leg. Early on that leg, our friend Jason in Cleveland posted up an idea on our Black Ticket Facebook group page. His idea was that we all get dressed up for the last show in Grand Rapids, formal attire. When the band came out and took the stage and they looked out into the crowd and saw so many people all dressed up, it would probably be the last thing they ever expected to see. It would provide a little shock value in the moment, and there would be a little twist of irony in that many of these people are likely the last people on earth you'd ever expect to see getting dressed up like that. And aside from some people who have to do it based on career choice, many of these people will be doing something that they don't normally do. The flyer he came up with was pretty crafty. It said black ticket, and he crossed out ticket and wrote tie. So moving forward, it is known as the Black Ticket Black Tie event. Everyone seemed to think it was a great idea. We'd work out the specifics later, but it'd be our way of putting our signature on the final show of the Black Ticket. Now, to be completely honest, I did not like the idea, not one bit, but I just kept my mouth shut. The thought of wearing a suit literally turned my stomach, as it always had. I hadn't worn one since 8th grade graduation, but I thought about it, and in this situation, I just didn't want to go against the grain. If there was any group of people on earth that I could even think of doing such a thing with, it was this group of people that I had gotten to know so well in the most fantastic adventure of my life. The only problem was I didn't have a suit, so I'd have to go out and get one. There were no rules involved, and a lot of people didn't have a suit or a dress or anything near formal clothes. Some people ran out to the Goodwill and picked up used, some bought new, some went wild and crazy. Some people were formal from the waist up. Again, there were no rules, but for the ease of it all, I figured I'd just go out and buy one, and that's what I did. You may remember my friend Jeff from episode 1. Well, he went out with me to buy the suit. He's a principal, so he knows all about suit buying. I figured I'd recruit him to help me with the gruesome task. And he could not believe it. He just could not believe that I was going to go along with the idea. But we went out and got my suit, and I was ready for the final show. I'm going to stop talking about this because it's making me feel ill all over again. But I knew there was going to come a point where I'd have to explain this to you. I'll tell you more later. The other thing that was a little different about this break was that I didn't have to submit a black ticket report to Stefan at So What. But what did happen on this break was I received a goodie pack from Metclub for my service as a black ticket reporter. The goodie pack was not necessary because having my tour accounts published in So What was more than enough of an honor and a prize, but it was greatly appreciated. Man, they really hooked us up. We got a couple shirts, a hoodie, a journal book, pics, all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, it was really a nice gesture on their part, and I'd like to say thanks to Metclub for that. It was really awesome. Before I knew it, the 3 weeks was over. It was time to hit the road again. The first show was on Thursday night in El Paso, so I worked until noon on Tuesday. I went and picked my rental car up, headed home, slept for a couple hours, and I got up and hit the road at about midnight. I knew it was going to be a long trip, but I didn't realize how long. I'm just really glad that I left early because I did not anticipate the stretch of bad weather that I encountered in Oklahoma. I was actually able to get a fair amount of sleep, so when I woke up, I was good and rested for the drive. I hit Moto Mart for some coffee, and I was gone. Leaving at midnight was a nice little change of pace because all the previous legs started in the morning, so I was wide awake and feeling really good about my little 6-hour jump on a 17-hour trip. After about 2 hours on the road, I pulled into the same gas station in Missouri where Rob and I had stopped to stock up on cigarettes when we were heading to Tulsa. Well, I wanted to do that again. You may remember from the Tulsa episode the girl behind the counter who wanted to go with us when she found out that we were heading off to see Metallica. I wasn't very confident that I was going to see her again because it would have been a completely different shift. But I figured there was a slim chance that she might be in there. So I went in ready, and as soon as I walked in, what do you know? There she was. It had only been a month, but as many people as she probably sees in a day, I was pretty surprised when she remembered me right away. And she asked where I was headed this time. I told her this time we were starting in El Paso and we were going to end in Grand Rapids. And she said, "Damn, can I go this time? Please let me go." I told her as much as I'd like to do that, I'm meeting Michelle from Wisconsin in El Paso. And when I got there, she might not be too happy if I had company. Although Michelle wouldn't have minded one bit, I had to use her in the moment. Of course, the girl was joking. We laughed. I said, "I did remember you though," and I reached in my pocket and I pulled out a pic from the Little Rock show and I gave it to her. Man, that made her happy. She started jumping up and down like crazy. She showed the other worker. She thanked me over and over. I finally got my smokes and I said, "Next time I promise I'll take you with me," knowing full well that there wasn't going to be a next time. She said, "You got a deal. I'll see you next time." She waved goodbye, and that put me in a really good mood. It was a good way to start the trip. I got back on the road and I was making really good time right until the sun came up. And then as the sun came up, I realized that it didn't ever really get completely light out. So I pulled over and I checked the weather, and it looked like things could get ugly before I got far enough south not to have to worry about that. I stopped in Tulsa to get gas and I realized the front tire was low. So I filled up the tank and I filled up the tire and I hoped for the best. It struck me as pretty odd that the 2 times that I was in Tulsa on this tour, the front driver's side tire was low. It was 2 separate cars, so that made it even more strange, and I didn't have my trusty mechanic Svet with me, so I just kind of ignored it and I hoped that it would find a way to fix itself. There was an increasing amount of icy patches on the road. It had been raining for a couple hours and the temperature was hovering right around 32 degrees, so I knew based on the forecast that it was only going to be a matter of time. I got stuck behind a truck spreading sand on the highway, and that's when I really started to lose time. He was doing about 40 miles an hour, but even after he took the exit, I couldn't go much faster because the road was really starting to get slick. Right before I got into Oklahoma City, I pulled into a truck stop where I can get some coffee and top off the tank again. I talked to a guy there and I asked him if this type of weather was common there. And he said, "No, not really. And if you're heading to Oklahoma City, be really careful because the people there do not know how to drive in this type of weather." When I got there, I found out he was 100% correct. Traffic in every lane was reduced to a crawl of less than 20 miles per hour. It was incredibly nerve-wracking until I crossed over into Texas, and right then, the temperature raised a considerable amount and my problems were behind me. Now, before I got into my weather problems, I realized I had to decide if I wanted to take I-40 West and drop down through New Mexico, or if I wanted to take I-44 and see more of Texas. It made sense to me that because I was heading to 2 Texas shows, I'd probably want to take the route that kept me in Texas. With all the confusion on the roads in Oklahoma City, I pretty much gave up on stressing out about what I had to do to follow my plan, and I just told myself I was going to let whatever happened happen. And that was my new plan. Somehow in all the chaos, I ended up on 44 and I ended up in Wichita Falls. Everything had worked out. Right around Abilene, I got on I-20, which would take me to I-10 and right into El Paso, but it wasn't quite as easy as that. I still had 450 miles ahead of me, but I was feeling pretty good about where I was. I decided the best strategy would be to sit back and enjoy the ride, and that's exactly what I did. The scenery was just awesome. Wide open as far as the eye could see in any direction. An occasional tumbleweed blowing in front of the car every now and then. I'd been to Texas a few times before. I'd been to Houston and I'd been to Dallas-Fort Worth, but this part of the trip offered what I had always imagined Texas as being while growing up. I was out in the middle of nowhere and I was enjoying the hell out of it. Every now and then I'd come into a small town, I'd pull in and get some coffee, but otherwise I'd stay on course. Before I knew it, it was starting to get dark, and that's when things got interesting as driving goes. I came to a part in the highway that was nothing like I'd ever seen before. It was like a 4-lane highway, and based on how fast everyone was driving, there didn't seem to be a speed limit. I'm sure there was a posted limit, but due to all the action with the ramps entering and exiting the highway, I never could find out what it was. But the ramps, oh my God, the right lane was a never-ending series of entrances and exits. And there were no gaps between them. They just kept coming. Based on what I saw when I looked out to the right, I could only conclude that all this crazy traffic was coming and going to and from a massive stretch of refineries. Those trucks weren't playing around. The ramps were very short, and by the time they hit the highway, they were going as fast as everybody else. And then you had to deal with the crazy suckers coming from the left side trying to get to the exit ramps. It was just insane. I'd never seen anything like it. It just kept coming and coming and coming. As soon as the entrance would end, an exit would begin, over and over and over. It didn't seem like there was any hope in sight. It was almost as nerve-wracking as our trip down Cabbage Hill on our way to Spokane, and as I hear myself say that right now, no, it wasn't that bad, but it was not fun. And as tired as I was after what seemed like an eternity of chaos, it all ended as quickly as it had begun. I was relieved to see a sign for a rest area ahead, so I decided to take it. I figured this would be a good time to call Michelle. I was pretty certain that I was going to have to listen to her restating what had become the common theme of how I was going to be late to my own funeral and all that good stuff, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that her flights had been all screwed up and that she was actually still in Dallas. I was still a few hours away from El Paso, and I had planned on telling her that I was going to get a room at the Motel 6 I had just passed. I'd get up bright and early in the morning, and I'd be there earlier than I would be getting up if I continued driving. But she talked me right out of that when she said that she wasn't going to be there much earlier than I would be if I'd just suck it up and keep on driving. I said hell with it. I agreed. I figured that'd be easier than arguing, so I grabbed one final energy drink. Coffee wasn't cutting it anymore. It really seemed like the wrong way to start the final leg, but at this point it was too late to dwell on it, so I just decided to keep moving forward. And I hit the road for the most grueling stretch as far as exhaustion goes as I encountered on the entire tour. I really started to wake up when I found myself on some hills much larger than anything I'd ever expect to find myself on in Texas. It wasn't anything like the mountains in Colorado, but I finally concluded that there are mountains in Texas, something that I never knew. This realization really seemed to wake me up, and it wasn't too much longer and I was pulling into the hotel. My little 17-hour trip turned into a 22-hour trip, but I had finally made it to El Paso. When I got to the room, I was even happier to find out that Michelle had only been there for about a half hour. When I talked to her at the rest area, she'd kind of stretched the truth a little bit just to motivate me. She was supposed to be here a few hours earlier, but things didn't go her way. Like I said, her flights got shuffled up and she got held over a couple times. But when she finally made it to El Paso, the shuttle bus that was supposed to pick her up from the hotel just kept on driving past her. This happened quite a few times, and then finally a shuttle driver from another hotel pulled up and asked her what was going on. He said he noticed that she had been standing there for quite a while, and he offered to give her a ride to her hotel. That was really cool of him. I got to hear the long version of her entire trip, and let me tell you what, listen to an angry Italian chick give a detailed account of a day where everything went wrong is exhilarating. It's exhilarating, and it can be dangerous, because every time you start laughing, which was very frequently that night, you risk that death stare that tells you you're about to get your ass kicked if you don't watch it. Anyway, we were both exhausted from our trips, but we had made it. Shortly after our little catch-up session, we were both out cold. When we woke up the next morning, realization set in, and that awesome feeling of where we were really hit us. And when I say where we were, I don't just mean in El Paso. I mean we're in El Paso, Texas. We're getting ready to head down to the arena to join many of our good friends. And we'll certainly meet more before this last leg is over. Life was good. We were back on the road as if we had never stopped. We jumped in the car. We hit a McDonald's for a double dose of good morning. We headed down to the Don Haskins Center, which is the home of the University of Texas at El Paso Miners, men's and women's basketball teams. When we got up to the building, there was already a good group of black ticket holders taking the rare opportunity to be first in line in Rob Bradley's absence. Sarah, Pete, and Austin from New York were there, Joe from California, Tommy from Pennsylvania, Brandon from Utah. When I turned around, I saw John from Wisconsin. You remember my boy Bill? He was walking up with Sue from Canada. When I turned back around, I saw the Hatfields from Illinois, and many, many more. It was just really good to see those faces again. And I know I've said this multiple times throughout this series, and I'll probably say it again before it's over, but it's a pretty incredible feeling when you can walk up and just look around and see all these faces from so far away, people that you know. You're not just familiar with them, you know them, they're your friends. It's just an incredible, incredible feeling, and I don't know how to explain that. And for many of you, I know I don't need to, but I just want to stress that it was great walking up to that line that morning. So Michelle joined them in line and I got busy doing my thing. I got to meet and hang out with and throw my questions at a lot of cool people. I got to meet quite a few black ticket holders that I hadn't met before that day and give them their black ticket patch. A local radio station, KLAQ 95.5, had a real cool promo set up. They were giving away all sorts of prizes. I got to throw my questions at one of their guys, Daniel. I had a great time doing that. He was a very interesting character. After that, I decided to head back up to the building and see what was going on up there. On my way, I ran into my friend Steven. It was really good to see him, and he told me that he had just gotten done. They've got this bridge where you can pay 50 cents or $1 and walk into Mexico, and then you just come back over the bridge. I thought that was a really cool thing to do, and if we'd have had a little more time and known about it, I could have truly acquired my coast-to-coast, border-to-border credential. I figured that because we were in a town that lies directly on the border, we were a mile or two away at most. When I saw Steven, he said, it's just right over there, so we might have been closer than a mile. But anyway, I had succeeded in accomplishing one of the goals I set before the tour even started. Again, I've referred to it all along as coast-to-coast, border-to-border credential. About an hour before they let us in, I really started feeling sick. I had actually been feeling sick all day, and it got progressively worse. I felt like I had a tremendous fever. I figured it was related to my ear problems, and I hoped that if I ignored it, it would go away. I pulled Michelle to the side and I said, hey, if I disappear during the show, I just want to let you know, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm really feeling rough. I've got a terrible fever. She looked right at me and said, you're so stupid sometimes. And I said, what do you mean? And she pushed my hat back. She said, yeah, you've got one hell of a sunburn. Of course you're going to feel like you've got a fever. I hadn't given that any thought at all because it was the dead of winter. A little over a month ago, we were in Cleveland, the temperature was 0 and the wind chill was like negative 50 degrees. Here we were in El Paso and it was like in the upper 90s. It was really strange, but in that moment, that realization made me confident that I was going to make it through the show. Shortly after that, they opened the doors and started to let us in. They let us line up on the inside for a little bit. It wasn't much longer. We were parked on the rail. Randy from Houston was on one side of us, and James and Wendy from Illinois were on the other side. The arena was one of the smallest venues on the entire tour. Therefore, the sold-out crowd of 12,000, a little over 12,500 people, was one of the smallest crowds on the tour. But you wouldn't have had any idea that that was the case based on volume. The fact that it was a smaller building might have had something to do with it. I don't know, the way sound behaves in varying size buildings. But, whatever the reason, the crowd in El Paso, I honestly believe they were the loudest crowd on the entire tour. I'm not saying they were necessarily the rowdiest crowd, but as sheer volume goes, they were definitely the loudest crowd. My ears were ringing worse than they did after any other show on the whole tour. I couldn't believe how loud they were. And the lights, there was something different about the lights. I don't think it was the stage lights. I think it's how the stage lights reacted to all the additional light in the crowd. I honestly spent more time that night watching the people in the crowd than I did watching the band. There were a couple times that night where it seemed like everybody in the building that had a phone hit the flashlight mode and they were just waving it to the music in rhythmic patterns, and it was really cool to watch. Anytime you're at a Metallica show, there's a tremendous feeling of togetherness. We come from all walks of life, but for a couple hours, we're there together and everything else goes away. I'm not saying a negative thing about any other Metallica show I've ever been to, but in El Paso that night, that feeling of togetherness, oneness with the whole crowd, it was there in full force. Anytime I made brief eye contact with anyone around me, you could clearly see that they were having the time of their life, and it wasn't the I'm at Metallica, this is awesome. It was the look of we're at Metallica. And again, that level of togetherness that I felt there that night is something I'll never forget. I remember wondering during the show if it had anything to do with cultural differences and what I'll call the Hispanic flavor as an involvement at a more intense level than any of the other shows I had seen. I assumed that might be the case, and more than once during that show I said to myself, damn, this is a bona fide fiesta. And I really appreciate getting to experience that night. The set list was solid. We didn't get any songs that we hadn't heard already on the tour, but we did get Holier Than Thou, which wasn't played very often, and we got Motor Breath. Blackened was also back in the first encore slot. The crowd went nuts when they played that. If you've been watching all along, you know that I've been trying to use a different song for each episode, and I've been trying to work in each song that we heard on the tour at least once throughout the series. Well, I've hesitated with this song quite a bit because of the break with the drums in the middle of the song. I just didn't know how well that would go, if it would interrupt the flow of the video, but we're running out of songs, and it's a really good song, don't get me wrong. The song at the end of the video is Now That We're Dead. I think the song worked out okay, but for whatever reason, many of the pictures I ended up with from that night ended up really pixelated. So pixelated that I thought, I don't even want to use these. Well, I finally realized that sometimes those pictures that are kind of blurry or they're super pixelated, they have kind of an abstract quality to them, and maybe I'm reaching to justify using them, but at the end of the day, those are the pictures that I brought from that show, so I figured I'm going to go ahead and use them. When pick time rolled around, I got my 2 El Paso picks, continuing my perfect run. I was 29 for 29 with at least 2 picks. One from my friend Jonathan and one from my friend Alexander. We looked for the group picture outside, but either we missed it or there wasn't one. We did find a large group of our friends. We hung out for a little bit. We said goodnight and we headed back to the hotel. The next morning we got up pretty early, we checked out, we hit the road, but there was one more stop I had to make before leaving town. I told Michelle we had to swing by Walmart so I could get some old El Paso taco seasoning. She gave me the old blank stare for a few seconds before saying, "Dear God, I'm afraid to ask, but go ahead, tell me, why? Why do you need taco seasoning?" My answer was pretty simple. I said, well, I need some old El Paso taco seasoning here in El Paso, for the exact same reason that we'll be stopping in Kansas City to get some KC Masterpiece barbecue sauce. She just rolled her eyes, shook her head, and said, "Oh, that's right, I'm traveling with an idiot." So we headed in, we got my taco seasoning. We also found some of those Kinder eggs that we discovered in Cincinnati. When we got out to the car, we had to break open our eggs to see who got the cooler toy before we jumped on the road and headed to Lubbock. I'd like to say thank you to the crowd in El Paso. You guys really know how to throw a party. As I said earlier, there was an incredibly special feeling of unity there that night. And I'm also going to say this one more time. Damn, you guys know how to make some noise. I will never forget that show. To everyone else, I'd like to say, as always, thanks for watching. If you like what we have going on here, we'd appreciate it greatly if you consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a like, a dislike, whatever the case may be. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Next stop, Lubbock, Texas. We'll see you there. Until then, rock on. What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Mark Aguirre. I'm right here from El Paso, Texas.
I'm Matthew Berg from Santa Maria, California.
And I'm his wife, Brittany Berg from Santa Maria, California.
My name is Gilbert, and I'm here from El Paso, Texas.
My name is Isaac Villalobos. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
My name is Eugene Moore. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Aaron Villalobos, Dallas, Texas.
I'm Daniel Paulus. I'm from here. I work for 95.5 KLAQ.
Alrighty, here's their booth.
Yep. It's the day of the show. That's what we're doing.
Alrighty.
We're doing a thing to give away a turntable, vinyl records, and it's gonna be a long day, but it's gonna be a great day.
How long have you been a Metallica fan?
Ever since 1984, 14 years old.
Wow, have you seen him before live?
Oh, I sure have.
First time you saw him?
Saw him back here in El Paso. It was called the Big Apple. They used to do a show over 18, under 18 shows, 2 shows. And that was a long time ago now here in El Paso.
Remember the year?
1986.
So you saw Cliff.
I saw Cliff.
Hey, that's a memory that a lot of people don't have.
I've been a Metallica fan since I was 5 years old. First show was 93 at the LA Coliseum.
10 years since I married him.
Were you part of the brainwashing?
Absolutely.
Years now. Years.
Okay, have you seen him live before?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Oh man, you're about to get your world rocked.
Hell yeah.
Since I was 11 years old, actually.
For me, since I was a kid, something I grew up with.
All right.
Since I was around like 12.
Have you seen him live before?
No, I haven't. First time.
Oh, you're about to get your world rocked.
For me, this is my second time. First time was in Atlanta for the WorldWired Tour in 2017.
17 at the Atlanta
Park?
Stadium?
Yeah.
I was at the show.
I was nosebleeds. Now I'm on the floor.
Nosebleed too. On the floor too. Right on, man. It's your interview, not mine. But yeah, that was a great show.
My first time.
Oh, you're going to get your world rocked too.
Yeah.
I've been a Metallica fan my whole life, man. Practically since I was a baby.
Alrighty, so have you seen him before live?
No, this is gonna be the first time.
Okay, you're about to get your world rocked. This is a personal note.
All right, I'm looking forward to that.
Do you have someone in your life that you credit with turning you on to the band in the first place? How did you come about being a fan?
Just radio. I was just lucky enough to hear, I guess, my uncles and aunts. Actually, it's going to be my uncle and aunts. They're the ones that influenced my music to this day. They're a little bit older than myself, and just wanted to see what they had out there, and I heard a few songs, Metallica, off of Kill 'Em All. I was like, what's this that I'm listening to right here? Ever since then, I've been a fan.
That's awesome. Are they going to be here today by chance?
No, they're not. I haven't spoken to them in a while.
Okay, don't mean to go too deep with it.
That's easy for me. That'd be my father. My father always put Metallica on, took me to the first show when I was 5 years old, and been hooked ever since.
Him.
There you go. You married the right guy.
Yep, I did.
Honestly, like back in the 80s, you know, like I was I tried everything. I was a rap fan, a country fan, a rock fan. Definitely a rock fan before anything else. And I was trying to find new music, and I discovered Metallica on my own, kind of like with Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. And I slowly turned into that kind of rock genre. And, you know, first it was Nirvana that turned me on to more rock, and then I just explored into different genres from there of different rock.
I just heard it on the radio one day because my daddy, well, we listened to like music like that, starting from like Rob Zombie and all that, but I just heard him on the radio. That was it. Simple as that. Just heard it on the radio.
All right.
I was actually riding in a car with a friend one day, and his father was in the car, and one came on. He's like, do you know what this song is? I was like, no, I don't know what this is. He's like, how do you not know the greatest song in the history of metal? And from that point, I listened to one, and I dove in deeper into Metallica, and then I just fell in love ever since.
You found out.
Yes, sir, I found out.
So I listened when I was like 12, but I became a real heavy fan. My wife, Heidi, she got me into it. She passed away. That's the main reason why we're here. She loved Metallica. She never got to see him live, but it was like, I promise, we're going to go see him live. We're here.
You're going to see them together.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my dad, you know, he played a lot of music, played a lot of Pink Floyd, a lot of Rush, and in there, like, he listened to, like, Enter Sandman, and that was, like, one of the first songs I heard. I thought it was good, but me, I like to listen more into, like, a band's entire discography. So that's when I checked out, not just the Master of Puppets album, but the Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All. You know, I checked out even the Reload and Load albums, and from there, it took off.
We come from all walks of life as Metallica fans. Mind telling us what you do for a living?
I'm a security guard.
I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Alrighty. And you just have another one?
Yeah, we had a new little baby in October, and she's already a Metallica fan. You play Unforgiven 2, and she's instantly calm.
Loves it.
Excellent.
Our
That-
oldest is 6, and he went to his first Metallica concert in December.
How about the middle?
She's more of a diva. She's a little bit
Next door.
difficult.
Next door she'll be.
Takes them a little time.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I work at a payroll company on the west side. I can't tell you which.
Yeah,
but,
no, that's fine. Sometimes I get an undercover cop that can't say at all, so I don't mind.
Okay. But I do clerical work, office work.
Well, I'm still in high school. I haven't really done much, but hopefully I'll be able to do something useful in my life.
Still going to school, you're doing a lot.
Yep.
I'm in the United States Air Force.
Right on.
I'm in the Marine
Excellent.
Corps.
Oh man, right on. Maybe you'll follow their role.
Yeah.
You never know. We come from all walks of life. I know you said you work for the radio station. What specifically do you do at the radio station?
I mean, I do a lot of things. I mean, I help out with giving away the on-site remotes and giveaways.
You on air?
I'm on the air. I voice commercials as well, produce. I help out with the morning show every now and then.
Alrighty.
I try to be a jack of all trades, really.
All right. Looks like you're doing a real good job.
I appreciate that.
Alrighty.
I certainly try.
Okay, what do you think about Brewer opening up the show?
I've never seen Brewer live. I've seen him he was a guest. I can say he MC. I saw him back in Metallica in New York, the Bowery Ballroom, and he was there. He also helped introduce the band, and so I'm interested to see what he has to offer. I'm up for it. I want to see what he's going to do.
I thought it was a little different, but I think it'd be interesting. It's fun to see. You know, a lot of times you go to shows and you see the opening bands, you're kind of not paying attention. And this is more like he's pumping you up, getting you ready. You know, asking Metallica.
Yeah, now that you've seen him a few times, you...
Exactly. Yeah. So I enjoy it.
All right, what did you think? And
I haven't seen him yet, but our son saw him in December and hasn't stopped talking since. He thought it was very interesting.
and how old is he?
He's 6.
Wow, that's pretty good if you can make a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Well, Jim actually called him out when he was asking
He was the
who
youngest
the
kid
youngest.
at the tour.
Oh, well, and it wasn't him?
Yeah.
And what show was that?
That was Fresno.
Man, I was there. I probably saw you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop. A comedian opening it up for a rock band. I'm okay with it, you know, like it's something new, something I never seen before. But at the same time, you know, it's okay, I guess. Like I'm willing to give him a shot.
I think it's gonna be funny. I think it really is. I'm open-minded to it.
Honestly, I didn't know who Jim Breuer was until this point, so I'm hoping I'll be surprised and shocked. I mean, comedy, I think that's something that could definitely be open for Metallica shows. So.
He's the perfect mix of comedy and metal. He is a metalhead, so I love his comedy. He was awesome, and I can't wait to see his performance.
Yeah, and you obviously know you're Jim Breuer.
I love
because
that
you
dude.
knew that
Love
stuff.
that dude.
Right on.
Oh my God, Jim Breuer, he's one of the greatest comedians ever. He's one of the few comedians that can actually do a full set, leave you in stitches, and almost have no cursing. None. Not one, zero.
That's a good observation.
And honestly, he's a family man. He can tell a story, and you're just intertwined. You're just sucked into everything. Jim Breuer is amazing. And if you ever have a chance to go see him do stand-up, go see him. If you want a family, friendly and a comedy that's going to leave you on the floor dying of laughter, Jim's the guy. And the fact that he's friends with the band for over 15 years, and going on 20 years, I think, that just shows that these guys appreciate Jim.
Yes.
And not just as a comedian, but as a person, too.
I would agree. Can you narrow it down to one favorite song?
One favorite song has to be Creeping Death.
Nice.
Unforgiven too.
No hesitation there.
That was easy for her. For me, it's a little bit tougher. I'd have to say Master of Puppets. It's the ultimate Metallica song. It's got everything in there.
You know what started getting me on to them is Whiskey in a Jarro. I just love that kind of hymn, kind of rock kind of deal.
You like whiskey?
Oh yeah, big whiskey drinker.
One will always be my favorite song.
Blackened. Yeah.
And Black.
All right. Can you narrow it down to a favorite single song? I know, that's why I asked.
Picking a favorite Metallica song is like kind of picking your favorite child. It's like, how can you? I can tell you, I could probably pick a favorite from each one, but even then, that's not doing it justice. But I will tell you a couple. I love the Four Horsemen. I love No Remorse. Fight Fire with Fire. Creeping Death. Disposable Heroes. Orion, of course. Rest in peace, Cliff.
Right on.
Of Wolf and Men. I believe that's what it's called from the Black Album.
Yeah. How about a favorite album?
It has to be Kill 'Em All. It's my favorite one.
Okay.
Gotta go with Master again.
Reload.
Nothing wrong with that.
I can't narrow it down for my favorite.
Not impossible.
I just kind of like them all.
Justice. I haven't listened to it in a while, but it's still my favorite album.
Depends on the mood right now. I'm feeling Justice as well.
Ride the Lightning.
That would probably be either Kill 'Em All or Ride the Lightning.
Alrighty.
Master of Puppets is a great album, don't get me wrong. However, you can't deny the first two albums that really, it's solidified Metallica sound for the world to enjoy. By Master of Puppets, they refined it. This is what they are.
This is kind of a strange question, I've been told. Do you have a favorite band member, past or present?
I just have to say Lars. I have to say go with Lars.
Okay.
Oh, James. It has to be James all the way.
Same.
Nah, not really. It's like there's nobody that really stands out because I don't really follow them. I just follow the music.
Lars still. Lars.
James, especially the way he's developed over time, the way he's really mature now and turned real wise. I really respect him for the way he is now.
Don't really have a favorite band member.
All right, a collective unit of Metallica.
Yeah, just collective.
Right on.
Lars is great. I love Cliff when he was around. He made Metallica songs amazing on bass. He made the bass relevant in metal. So when the Justice for All album came out, I was like, where the hell's the bass? And you know what? Jason Newsted and Robert Trujillo, great bass players. Underappreciated. Just saying.
Yep.
Of course, Kirk Hammett is a great guitar player. James Hetfield, great guitar player. Great lead singer. You can't... I know you asked me who's my favorite. It's all of them, all right?
Do you have a favorite Metallica memory? Is there one standalone moment that's larger than other?
Well, I met him back in 2004 in Lubbock, a meet and greet. What I did, I used to work at a boot company, and I made some boots for James Hetfield. Met him backstage, presented him some boots, and that's been my stand-up memory of meeting the band, meeting Metallica and James Hetfield himself.
That's interesting. Have you ever caught pictures of him wearing the boots?
Oh no, I haven't. I haven't today. Actually, in fact, today I made a poster hopefully I'm lucky enough, I'll get in the rail like you showed on that poster and see if those boots actually fit.
That's pretty awesome, dude. If the band members themselves should happen to see this, do you have a personal message for them?
James, hopefully those boots did fit you, and bring Gio back. We miss Gio.
I just love everything you do. You've been a big part of my life, my entire life. I know it sounds cliche, but it might be someplace different if you guys weren't there, always helping me through everything, any troubles, good times, bad times. You've always been there for me. You've always delivered. Just thank you very much. Keep doing what you do.
My son Matthew says hi, Lars. He wants to be a drummer one day just like you.
There you go.
You guys rock, man. Thank you for coming from to El Paso. Sorry about that. No, that's it. Yeah, thanks guys. You guys rock. Thank you for giving El Paso a chance, man.
Just keep rocking on, man. Just keep rocking on.
Never lose sight, know your power. You know, you guys' music touched so many people, so many hearts. So keep doing what you do, and don't let anyone stop you.
The music keeps people going. It's amazing, and I hope they never stop.
Thank you so much for what you've done for metal, for music, for people, not just here in El Paso, but around the entire country of the United States and around the world, for making people want to pick up a guitar, pick up a bass, pick up a set of drumsticks, and just freaking play. Thank you, and keep rocking.
Are you alive? Good to know. Because if you want to live forever, first you must die.